food, living spaces, transportation, cities, enterprises, energy, and digital trust. We believe technology is forging a brighter future.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I invite everyone to please take your seats? Hello again and good afternoon to everyone and welcome back to the Digital Industry Summit. My name is Charles Chew. I am the Policy Director for the Asia Pacific at the GSMA, and it's my privilege to open this session entitled Advanced Mobility and Transportation. As many of you would have heard over the last day and a half, mobile technology and services continue to make significant contributions to the Asia Pacific economy, generating 5% of GDP in 2021, and supporting approximately 8.8 million jobs last year. According to the GSMA Global Economy Asia Pacific 2022 report, which was just released earlier this year, while 4G remains dominant in the region, 5G adoption as a percentage of total connections is set to accelerate. Today, 5G is commercially available in 14 countries in the Asia Pacific, with several others, including India and Pakistan, coming online in the coming months. In addition, by 2025, there will be more than 4 million 5G connections in the Asia Pacific, just over 14% of total mobile connections. However, in countries like Australia, Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, 5G is expected to account for 55% of the country's connections by 2025. So that's really a brief snapshot of the supply side picture. On the demand side, since the first commercial deployment of 5G in 2019, 5G commercial networks and services are becoming mainstream in coexistence with 4G, opening up the digital ecosystem across many sectors. In the logistics, port, and transportation markets, the numbers are similarly impressive. Global 5G market in aviation is valued at US $210 million in 2020 and is expected to reach 4.1 billion by 2026. The smart transport market is forecast to pump US $24 billion in annual revenue into the entire ecosystem, driven by 5G adoption and edge computing. This slide provides some of the pioneering efforts in the Asia Pacific vis-a-vis 5G-enabled logistics, transport, and port. The slides and links will be available to everyone after the session. So rather than hearing from me, I think it would really be more beneficial for everyone if you hear, form, and engage with the industry experts. And towards this end, we've assembled an illustrious group of industry leaders to share with you their thoughts, their perspectives, and their vision in the area of advanced mobility and transportation. So thank you very, very much for your kind attention. And without further ado, I have the honor of inviting Dr. Non A, Senior Expert in Smart Cities, Digital Economy Promotion Agency of Thailand to deliver the keynote. Dr. Non.
สวัสดีครับ 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 Hi everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. And as you can see from the program, I'm a substitute. My colleague, Dr. Supakorn, is also my boss. He's got COVID. I told him that he could have just come, right? Singaporeans are really welcoming anyway. But turns out he felt bad about it, so he couldn't really get himself on a plane. But anyway, because I was actually next door at the MBS Expo for the World City Summits already, so I thought I stepped in to help him on this mission. So my role at Digital Economy Promotion Agency, thanks Charles for introducing me, is a senior expert in smart city promotion. So my role is to make sure that Thailand becoming smarter. And since the urban is so important, because it has such a valuable propositions for human beings. As we know today, half of the world population are living in the urbans. Just 3% of the Earth's surface is urban. But half of the world population, 10 billion people, right? You have 5 billion people living in the urbans. So what is it going to be like in the next few years? The urban is the future. So I'm really honored to be here today. So I want to start with talking about the kinds of things that we like to do that kind of link into the ecosystem of smart city that we are doing today at Digital Economy Promotion Agency of Thailand. And thanks to the coffee that I just had beforehand, I tend to speak fast because of that. So let's get started here. The button would be this one, right? Got it. Okay. So if you look at this pyramid on your left-hand side here, what it shows is that the categories of industry are threefold. You have at the top, you have large industries, large enterprises, conglomerates. You have SME startups in the middle, and the bottom you have farmers who are engaging in primary industry like agriculture. But if you look at the diagrams next door on your right-hand side, you realize is there are some disproportionates that is not related. It's not correspond synchronically to the pyramid on your left-hand side, which is the idea that even though agriculture is accounted for a largest number of people in that industry, it actually accounts for a very tiny portion of the GDP. Whereas the large enterprise, although it's a very small portion in terms of people involved, it actually accounts for a very large portion of the gross domestic products. So that's imbalance in a way. It's quite interesting because it means that we are trapped in the middle income gap. But on the other hand, it shows that there are lots of opportunities. If you actually able to increase and enhance SME and startups, if you are able to digitize the smart farming at the bottoms, the opportunities is endless. And that's the whole projections that we have, that we can use digital economy to actually enhance the bottom layer of this pyramid, of course, and also at the middle to pull it up. There's a lot of opportunities for digitalization that leads to the higher GDP. And at the end, we might be able to overcome the middle income gap that a lot of cities in East Asia, including Southeast Asia, including Thailand, is facing. So this one, I like to present you the kinds of policy that we are involving at the moment. So the smart city, you can see here, it's at the end of the spectrum. It's the ecosystem, right? So what do we have at the beginning is that we want to reinforce the middle of the pyramid that you just saw earlier. Startups and SMEs, they can do less but gain more, right? You think of a digital platform, you think of a financial platform, you think of things that are very digitalized and they are creating new value propositions for the society. They can do less but they gain more. They connect supply chains, they build new value chains, and at the end they enhance the capabilities of the workabilities of the businesses industry as a whole. So if we can reinforce them, we can transform. And once we transform, we need an ecosystem to accommodate the transformation. You can have a smart economy, but what if you don't have smart people? What's going to be like, right? You're going to end up with an unsustainable industry operations. What if you have smart people but not smart education? What's going to be like? What if you have smart people but not smart community? That's why you need in a smart city as an ecosystem. So in Thailand, we think of smart city as a techno-social problem-solving tools. It's a tool, not a philosophy, not a paradigm, not a mindset, but a tool, right? We think of tools as something that we use to solve problems. But if you only have one tool like a hammer, every problem is a nail. So we like to think of smart city as a toolbox, whereby if the problems have to do with the the income distributions, then we use a tool of smart economy. If the problem has to do with the people who are not equipped with the literacy, we use a tool of smart people. If it's about the farmers are not getting their crops sold in the market correctly, then we use digital platform to solve the problem in matching demand and supply. So in that sense, what is very important here is the basis that you can see here. We use the term manpower because it's an old term that we came up with when we started the agency, but workforce is probably a better neutral term to use here. Right? We start with literacy, making people know for sure what they're getting from digitalizations, and then we build in the middle layer that mediate the literacy and advanced expertise in artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, cloud computing, and so on and so forth. So that bottom layer is very crucial because that which will lead to the flow of what's going on the top layer, which is moving from reinforcement all the way to building ecosystem. And the things that we are looking at in terms of statistics so far is that the logistics is quite important, if not very important, because we have so many ports, but then they are not completely utilized at the moment, even though we accounted for 2.8% of the GDP. So if you look at these numbers, of course, you're going to get these slides towards the end, so don't worry about it for now. You realize is that the largest logistical hubs have to do the sea hubs, seaports, deep seaports. In fact, are the ones that are accommodating the largest portion of the incomes, of course, in terms of things that are moving through and between Thailand as a main hub. And then you have aviation, and then you have road and road and ground, and at the end, very tiny portion have to do with train and rail transit. So a lot of people see this as the gap in the logistical supply, that we are not connecting all of them, they're not completely integrated, but we see a lot of opportunities. It means that we can enhance the rail system. It means that we can enhance more the deep seaport system. It means that digitalization can actually help in many, many aspects of it, right? So in the sense, we have many projects based on this information, things we can do better and things we can actually enhance the capacities of the logistical supply chain as a whole. So Thailand, as you might have heard from a lot of news sources, that has been one of the first countries in Southeast Asia to auction out the 5G spectrums. So we have the entire ecosystems here. We have regulators, we have operators. The regulator is the main one. It's governmental regulations. My colleagues at the NBTC. We have operators, all the big names, including NT, National Telecom, which is state enterprise, and of course all the usual suspects like AIS, True, and DTAC. We have all vendors who really interested in the 5G devices, and of course in spectrums that can be used for especially industry, and eventually we have lots of promoters, including ourselves, DEPA. So we hope that this will lead to an actualizations and materialization and executions of the targeted industry, which range from logistics to manufacturing to agriculture to tourism to finance and retail. And of course, use cases are pretty hard to find at the moment because we have a great technology, we have great products, but at the end of the day, it really depends on how do people match the capacities of that with the use cases that work with them as well. Otherwise, we'd just be driving a Ferrari in a farmland, isn't it? So in the sense, we are trying to think of at least 3 segments that seems to be very useful for this. One is healthcare, one is education, and last but not least is a smart city promotion, which we believe to be able to use a lot of opportunities from the low latency, from the high connectivity with IoT devices, and of course, a lot of interconnectivity by ways of bandwidth. So in the sense, we have built the 5G alliances. This is something very new, just a few months ago, that we created 5G alliances for people and all these regulators, all these members of the ecosystem, including the regulator as a leader, to formalize is the way in which we can work together. And in a sense, let me show you some of the cases that we have so far. So Charles already mentioned Lam Chabang Port, which is the crown jewel of the Eastern Economic Corridor, one of the newest area in Thailand that has got a lot of promotional incentives, including including tax-free incentives and a lot of things. And in fact, if you read some news lately, I think Bloomberg did a special piece on how one of the largest investments in terms of urban development will take place over there in the Eastern Economic Corridor area. And Lam Chabang is such a crown jewel because it has one of the most important deep sea port in the region. It also has one of the best technical universities located there. It also has the Digital Park Thailand, where all the innovation hubs will be located. And of course, we wanted to move from Port 1.0 all the way to Port 4.0. Just a little bit of background here. So a few years ago, Thailand came up with the idea of Thailand 4.0. And the idea itself was quite simple. We had problem with income distribution, and we have problem with the broader spectrums of how people in the countries are not really utilizing digital economy to help their economy. So Thailand 4.0 is an idea that play on words with the industry 4.0 idea to actually enhance the capacities of everybody in our sector of the economy to be able to use digital technology to enhance their livelihood by ways of economic activities and transactions. So the developments, we have tons of things going on in Lam Chabang because it's such a sandbox area for us to try out new things like gate automation, container and terminal management system, truck queuing system. We have vehicle booking system, we have port community systems, and all these are really useful use cases because you have real cases of numbers of trucks and containers coming in. Articulate trucks, for instance, they need to be arranged before they get into the queue. Otherwise, there'll be congestion. The congestion leads to a lot of time wasting, and time wasting leads to a lot of economic loss in terms of how we manage. So lots of things happen in Lam Chabang. It's gonna go into full scale as we probe. We're trying out different ideas. We're trying out different propositions, and hopefully one of them will lead to an exponential growth in the deep sea port operations. So that's just one case. And then again, we back to Bangkok, one of the quite interesting city for many of you guys who love to go to Thailand. So as we know, rail systems in Thailand is pretty old. It's been around for a while and it hasn't developed much. But recently, we just built this grand central terminal called Bang Sue, which will replace the existing terminal called Hua Lamphong, right at the heart of Thailand, of Bangkok, really soon. And for this Hua Lamphong for the Bang Sue grand stations, it's not just a terminal for exchanges of trains and goods and products, but it's also an innovation hub. It will be all around smart city project incubator. It will serve as a digital platform. It will provide information for people who transit there all the way from China down to Southeast Asia. There will be places where we maximize its passenger safety with digital twins and of course all kinds of digital technology, and supportive facilities will also be there to help people. So all these, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of IoT devices connected, and what else what else would be a better tool, better communication bandwidth to use than the 5G? So that is the thing that we hope that we can maximize, that enhances the usage and use cases here. And Bang Sue Grand Station would be one of the spots that we would like to do so. So in the sense, I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. Of course, you can see from here, it's looked quite impressive. I'm not sure about reality. I hope it looks similar. But again, we are in Singapore. I was just walking from the URA. I visited my colleagues at URA in the morning. I was impressed by everything I saw. So I don't think you're going to be surprised by this rendering. It's imaginative, but also very important. So next time you go to Bangkok, I recommend you go to visit Bang Sue area. You can go there by subway. You realize that it's such a lively and vibrant place. There are markets, the residential areas, one of the biggest conglomerates, SCG is located there, and the hub itself is still ongoing in terms of building, in terms of construction, but it's getting there in terms of becoming one of the most important smart cities and hub in ASEAN. Right, and then the data platform is something that's being built as we speak. So hopefully the integrated hub will take full use of the capacity that 5G can afford. Right there. So let's get to another project before my time's over. This is Utapao Smart Airport. As you know, there are two main airports in Bangkok, Don Mueang and Suvarnabhumi. So Utapao is another one. It's located in the Eastern Economic Corridor. It's supposed to connect the previous two with this new one, and therefore making Eastern Economic Corridor a very easy place to travel to, and therefore a very good place for logistical supply chain to be completely integrated. And not only that, we also try to connect that with other airports in other regions. For instance, Khon Kaen, which is another crown jewel of the Greater Mekong sub-region, one of the most important cities in the northeastern part of Thailand. It already have its own new terminal that will also be connected with the ecosystem of the entire airport in Thailand. And Krabi Smart Airport will also be connected to the Phuket Airport in the south. And that we're going to be using a lot of technologies in order to make all this interconnectivity and integrations something that would really enhance the capacities of how we move the economic activities in the entire country. So I want to use my last 30 seconds talk about the most important projects of all time for us. Well, because we built it, right? DEPA is responsible for making this happen. It's called the Thailand Digital Valley. And the interesting thing is that the area is quite flat, but we call it valley anyway because we love the term valley from Silicon Valley, right? This will be completed within the next 2 years. So 2014, please come visit us. The project is huge. We are spending about $120 million on it. It's fully funded by the government. The DEPA is the host, right? So one building is complete already. The one that looks like a bird over there, it's about to be completed. And the other three is about to be completed in the next 2 years. And because DEPA is driving it, we hope that this will be the real hub for innovation. There'll be large enterprises and startups working together hand in hand with global corporations. There'll be test beds and test labs for all kinds of technology, IoT, 5G, cloud computing, blockchain, drones, robotics, artificial intelligence, you name it. It will take place over here. And hopefully with the completions of the high-speed rail, it will be very convenient to travel from Bangkok to this place. It will be very easy to travel from anywhere in the world to Utapao Airport, as I mentioned. It will be easy for people to actually be inventing new products here and use them for deep sea port, and then maybe they build new products in order to get it over to other places in the world. And there's also lots of incentives that we can give to companies to want to build their branches here. So if you have startups and SMEs that wanted to expand your market in Thailand, the spaces are being taken up really quickly. Make sure that you contact us so that we can bring you in the next 2 years in order to make this a real hub for innovations in Thailand. So I think my time is up. I'm looking forward to maybe more questions, and maybe the time during the panel you can ask questions too. But anyway, thank you so much for your attention. I hope I'm not being too fast with my speed of my speech, but blame it all on the coffee here at JW Marriott. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Non. Thank you for stepping in as well at the last minute with your presentation. I think the speed at which you spoke was also the speed at which development is taking place in Thailand. So thank you again for sharing with us the toolbox, the developments in the port, in the airports, and also I think for me personally, thank you very much for the strong reminder that I am overdue for a trip to Bangkok. And so that will be something on my list. Okay, the next presentation actually is a joint presentation. The presentation is entitled The Future City with Advanced Mobility and Transportation. We have two speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Willis Sim, Chief Corporate Sales and Solution Officer at M1. And the second presentation will be by Mr. Lee Wei Lee, Senior General Manager, Keppel Digi Limited. And I think, Mr. Sim, you are going first. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Willis. I'll just do some quick introduction. I'm from M1, and most of you in Singapore will know that we are, Sikang is here. So we are actually a local telecommunication operator of the three that Singtel Star and M1. It's quite famous, I guess. So I think we do mobile fixed and now 5G. The previous speaker was fantastic because it was a 5G speed, so I'm going to slow myself to a 4G speed so that we can hear. And partly because I think 5G applications are very few in the market today, all right? But before I start, let me also introduce the M1. Some of you may not know, but M1 is now part of Keppel. It's a leading Singapore company in Singapore that provides solutions for sustainable urbanization in areas like comprising energy and environment, all right, urban development, connectivity, that's where I'm from, all right, we also own data centers, and asset management, all right. Now, without ado, let me just move on to the slides. Today I'm presenting on maritime and transportation, all right. How many of you all are expert in 5G in this room? I guess everybody is an expert here, okay? How many of you are transportation expert here? Also a lot. How many of you wandered in this room by accident? That's me. Okay, how do I press this? Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, so I think if you can see on the screen there, we have actually two areas that I felt was important, and I want to share a bit of my experience where we have done a bit of work with you guys. So one area, of course, is, oh, sorry. Thank you very much. I've got COVID anyway 1 month ago, and I'm not worried that you spread COVID to me, so it's okay. So, and the maritime industry, and there's the transportation industries, all right? Why these two industries that the telco look into it? Out of 50 industries for 5G. Let me just briefly explain. From a commercial angle, Singapore, as you know, is a top aviation and maritime hub in this region, all right? 10% of our GDP comes from these two industries, aviation and maritime. We provide 250,000 jobs in Singapore in these two industries, and we're anchored by well-connected ports and airports to the rest of the world. Those who have went to Changi Airport, you have seen our PSA port, you have seen our Tuas Megaport, upcoming Tuas Megaport, you will know these are strong developments in Singapore. So I think for 5G to be a part of this ecosystem, equation is a natural evolution for Singapore and M1. Next, in the smart ports has been a long talk about topic, all right, in MWC, in Nokia, Huawei events that you went to, all right, no difference. The challenge is this. How can you deliver 5G and reliable solutions in a port? So I think my colleague, Mr. Willie, will share some real-life experience later. I hope you can bring it back and in your respective telco and see whether you can do it. Today, ideas are easy. It's how do we implement is really the difficult parts that we want to look at, all right? So smart port actually have two applications. Advanced technology that will apply, that will give you scale, efficiency, with better connectivity and reliability. And that 5G achieves both of that. All right, those who are expert in 5G will know that better latency, higher bandwidth, okay? Now, I think for my slides today, I think I will cover 3 areas why we think 5G can play an important part. I mentioned earlier, efficiency and productivity. If you are working in the maritime industry, in the ports, today you know your biggest pain point is the maritime industry, unlike the land industry, has no fiber. Singapore, an average speed of fiber is 1 gigabits. But if you're at sea, I don't think you can even get a megabyte or 2 megabytes. There's no fiber, all right? So a lot of the solutions that we take for granted on the land and in the sea is not really applicable until 5G appeared. So 5G to us is the fiber to the sea, all right? It brings the solutions that has been long promised on the land to the sea, all right? So I'll share some of it later with you. And next, I think, as you know, it's very costly to rewire your ports, your onshore marines, your oil rigs, offshore data centers with fiber, all right? And you have this was constantly moving. Transportation means constantly moving. And with 5G, that problem is also solved, all right? Whenever you move from Singapore, even you move to Thailand or you move to Malaysia, the oil rigs, you can have the same connectivity as long as you have the spectrum, all right? So I think that's something we can do cross-border collaboration with telcos near shore, all right? Of course, in the big ocean, you have to use satellite. There's no escape for that. But near shore, where the cruise ship are in Lam Chambang, always go Lam Chambang, I love it. You have a cruise ship there, they can start using 5G now across all the cruise ships. The Royal Caribbean that cruise from Singapore to Lam Chambang to Port Klang can now use the same connectivity that is now 5G enabled. I can assure you, many of the crews, the people will be really, really excited about it. Next, in terms of safety and safety, I think 5G brings a lot of solutions that can enhance safety to the workforce that's working in the organization, in the maritime industry. That's something, another objective we want to achieve there. Lastly, sustainability. This is something new. We believe 5G will allow us to deploy a lot of sensors across all industries, and with that, we can now measure sustainability. This is a word that's overused, but how do we actually measure sustainability? You need to have up-to-date real-time data. Then you can measure sustainability, all right? Now, let me just cover the use case. I don't pretend to be a bot expert here. I'm not, all right? But I think if you look at this example that we have here, there are many use cases. We look at it. These are the top use case that I pull out. So I just want to summarize very quickly. What are the key areas that we believe are taking shape? When I say taking shape, it means that in Singapore, we are deploying it live. It's no longer a pilot, no longer a test bed, all right? 3 areas. Connected workers. If you want to see a real-life private 5G network that's rolled out in Singapore, deployed for 6,000 to 7,000 workers using the network, give us a call. I will be there later. We can invite you to see the pod that we laid out, or the ship that we laid out. 6,000 devices working simultaneously. That's where 5G comes to play. If your location only needs 50 devices, you don't need 5G. All right, I'm very honest about it. There's no business case for that. And the moment you have multiple use cases within a single location, 5G becomes valuable. All right, so I think this is really, really important. Next, so I think in the area of connected workers, I mentioned safety, you can see that. All right, productivity, again, you can see that. All right, today we can even measure heartbeats of workers before they even feel sick. So if I go to work 3-4 days before and my heartbeat is a bit low, we can flag out straight away. The debris in the shipyards along the sea, we can automatically detect. We do not need to fly a drone to detect it. Automatically, we can tell you there's something there in the middle of the ocean. Please go and pick it up. Or in the middle of the yacht, go and pick it up. So it enhances safety tremendously. In the area, so this actually brings in the area of surveillance, video surveillance. All right, many products are driven by surveillance, and surveillance brings about a lot of AI technologies that allow you to look at it. All right, I mentioned earlier we're also deploying sensors throughout the shipyards now, and I think in any ships that you build today, in any oil rigs that you build today, that is also an important piece to allow you to relay real lifetime information back to the shore. All right, in the past you use satellite, too expensive. 4G, patchy. All right, it's good, but not good enough for massive sensor deployments. Now, for nearshore case, I think we don't just talk about ports only. I extend transportation. I expand these ports to areas beyond just the offshore places. So in places like nearshore, I will cover easily 5,000 establishments, all right, that support our maritime industry, whether you are the shipyards, whether you are the warehouses, all right, or the bunkering companies, all right. They will all benefit tremendously with 5G along the maritime coastline deployment. Okay, so I think for Keppel, as you know, we are in the energy and environment areas. We are deploying 5G to a few other areas: our gas plant, shipping plant, our gas plant, power plants, waste plants, EV plants, and of course, even future offshore data centers. So we are exploring use case that we can use 5G to deploy without laying physical cables. In the area of urban development property, same thing. All right, although that's another topic for another day. Imagine the building where you're building today, any of the nice building you're building today, if you don't need fiber, how convenient that would be, and no refresh needed every month. And the same network is used for your consumers in the same building. All right. Now, one area that I think in the maritime and transport industry you would like to spend a bit more time on is drones. All right. Actually, then for 5G, you don't need 5G to fly a drone. I think that's to be clear. In case you thought 5G is needed, it's not needed. All right. But the drones relay back sensitive, high-quality images. This is where 5G is needed for the drones, all right? So I think one of the biggest use cases we are seeing now is the use of drones to capture information, relay back, and we can process the information at the edge to detect, I mentioned earlier, debris, danger, and situation up front, all right? So very, very useful use case we can use here, all right? But drones come with it a different problem. Do we, each of us with our own company, build our own drone teams? All right, how do we do it? So for Keppel, or at least for M1, we believe in building a central command center. You heard of network operation center, you heard of IT operation center. Similarly, in the future, drone operation center, where a single drone office, and we're offering a service today, can actually survey and do the things for you guys. I can detect heights, I can detect danger, but central location 24/7. Think of it as the future SOC. You heard of SOC network? This is the future, a drone command center. And I think maritime is at the heart of M1. This is the number of track record that we have, so I wouldn't cover much here, but generally these are the areas that we have done. You can see in the book that you have. Now, let me cover transportation. Now, this one is also another interesting area. Transportation has more acronyms than 5G use case, I would say. V2, V2X, V2X to C. But there lies a real problem in the transportation industry. One of the best use cases, actually, autonomous vehicles. I think the challenge today is that the regulation must catch up for us to be able to deploy vehicles. The vehicle, I can tell you, is smart. Elon Musk's vehicles are perfect. It's the human beings that are not so perfect. All right, we can hit the car, but the car might not hit us. All right, so I think for this to take place, I'm still a strong believer that this technology will be used in the future where the cars are autonomous, where you can be ferried anywhere with the cars autonomously, all right, and using Elon Musk's latest features. But today, at least for the next 5 years, it's going to be challenging. We need to let regulation catch up before this can be done. So what do we do now while waiting for the future to arrive? We can't be waiting for the future to arrive. So what we've done is to demark certain areas. All right, if you are running an estate in your transportation, a warehouse, you got a large area, a large port, right, you can start to demarcate certain areas and start to use some of the 5G technology to do autonomous vehicles. All right, if you are running, let's say, a smart estate, all right, you can now use the vehicles inside, which I'll share in the next slides. All right, this one, things like this. You can start to carry goods, all right, even things around the estate autonomously. There must be savings. In the past, this was be done by a human being operating a vehicle. So there's efficiency there done. All right, and then in the area of ports, you've got autonomous AGVs. All right, these are things you've definitely heard of already. Or you're expert at these things. So how can we deploy such vehicles? So this is our area of interest. All right, we partner Continental to develop some of these last mile delivery solutions. All right, Now, is there a future? Of course. At the same time, while we are looking at current, we are also envisioning the future. The future will come in devices like this that will ferry people within an estate in a small area. You'll be progressive, all right? Just like from 4G, 4.5G to 5G, transportation, same thing. You cannot expect to have autonomous vehicle in day one, all right? I'm not sure where it will happen first, but at least in Singapore, I think progressively you have autonomous vehicles for a small park, a tech park, a warehouse, the tech park, and then gradually, as the technology matures, you will see this being deployed island-wide, all right? I think hopefully the other countries that are here today, you can actually move faster than this, all right? But where your area is larger, Singapore is very compact, all right? Anywhere you move, you hit somebody. Okay. In a larger area, you may not hit somebody, all right? Even at sea, I can share with you, even at sea, there's also a lot of regulation. You might think that at the sea, there's nobody, right? It should be easy to deploy autonomous piloting vehicle. We have actually done it, all right? My colleague will share with you some of the technology we've done to deploy autonomous piloting. But can we do it with a regulation in place? So it takes time for this to mature, for us to actually be in place, all right? Now, I think my last slide is here. So M1, we have done a lot of trials, all right? I just want to share my learnings, all right? For me, 5G is a journey, all right? A journey that started for 5 years. I told my staff that we cannot go MWC anymore until we have successfully commercialized a solution. And I'm happy to say that in today's, if you look at the press tomorrow, today we did a PR with our press release today. We have deployed our very first private network in Singapore, Slice. All right, you didn't see me talking about that. It's Slice, of course, private network. And we are deploying it live at KOM. So if you Keppel Offshore Marine, one of our yachts, happy to announce that. And if you want to see the use case being used there, how is it being deployed, happy to share with you. My card I will give you my card. You need to contact me on LinkedIn or anywhere. Happy to do that. That's the journey. Second thing is that focus on the use case, not the technology. All right, focus that. Because if a lot of us start with 5G with the technology, we talk about slicing, we talk about high speed latency, and I think one customer ever told me it's actually a white elephant hunting for a solution. So that really shook us out, I think, in the industry that we must really find commercially viable use case. And I think the time has passed for 5G pilots. Today, we must now be deploying commercially viable use case in any of this vertical, whether it's transportation, maritime. If not, we will miss the boat. All right. So I think this is something that's a second learning I have. Lastly, I think 5G has already arrived. Like it or not, it's arrived. I know you may not see it, but I think today, what I want to do is to get my colleague to share with you a real-life experience. So really, I think I can invite you on stage now to continue, and I'm sure you can learn much more from him than from me. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you guys if you need any questions.
Okay, thanks, Willis, for the intro. Very good afternoon to all. Okay, right. Okay. Right, good afternoon to all. First and foremost, thank you for the colleagues our friends in GSMA for these invitations. So in these segments, as what Willis has shared, we are going to share our journey in Keppel Offshore Marine, arriving at 5G, working close with M1 as well as our partners. So along the way, we'll share some of our specific use case in maritime space. So it all started with the Yacht of the Future. This is one of our key transformations program, where the visions is to transform the yacht to be a technology advanced shipyard that characterized by a smart yacht, smart asset, and most of all with a tech-enabled workforce. Now the key here is a lot about speed in embracing new technologies through Living Lab. Now here is the model. In essence, it's the collaborations, co-creations model, tapping into the expertise of all the collaborators, internal, externals, in the various sectors, ICTs, industry, business domain, tech people, coming together to spin idea into reality. Now this is our journey so far. We started off with reflections, thanks to Siri, followed with a series of rationalizations, laying a foundation, getting through with a series of proof of concept, spinning up to scale up to capture value. But the more important aspect behind the journey is a lot about capabilities development, as well as the muscle for the team to embrace change. Now, it is also through this journey that we discover some of the limitations of the current technologies, latencies, user experience, among others, for the industry to embrace. Now, this is also exactly why we turned into 5G, asking the questions of why 5G, working along with all the various collaborators. Now, it doesn't took us too long to decide and embark on the journey to embrace 5G as the key enablers of our next lap of development. We are the first private network with 5G slicing by M1, and we have since charted out a series of 5G work plan, and today we're going to take you through with some of the use cases as well as the pilot that we are working on. Now, this is the first use case, a classic remote inspections use case. Keppel had collaborated with the major marine classification society, ABS, DNV, BV, in the form of JIP and MOU. The key mission here is really to transform the current physical-based inspections regime into a remote-based process. Now, with 5G in our environment, we are optimistic of the uptake moving forward. Now, to further drive safety, efficiencies, and capability in the maritime industry, Keppel Offshore Marine's M1, along with tech partners, has partnered IMDA to develop and commercialize 5G-enabled virtual platforms under the 5G innovations programs. Now, under these programs, there's 3 pieces of development. The first is a AR-assisted site inspections solutions, which aim to drive safety as well as efficiency at site, creating hands-free as well as paperless process in one go. Now, the second piece of development is real-time digital twin monitoring, specific for operations and maintenance. It aims to open up operations visibility of mission-critical assets, process to drive efficiency, as well as enabling the concept of extra pair of eyes during critical ops. Now, the third piece of development is engineer virtual collaborations platforms, a common platform for engineer at various sites, various geographics, to conduct a pre-constructions walkthrough, interactions, and collaborations, while simplify the post-constructions verifications process with the use of AR. Now, beyond the use case in the yacht environment, we have also embarked on a couple of pilots in Singapore water. Now, in this pilot, we are in partnership with the energy market authorities to co-develop a floating energy storage solutions to be deployed on board our floating living lab. 5G will be explored for the remote control of the systems, including a high-speed real-time data-driven regulations, optimization predictions to achieve optimal energy efficiency, reliability, and resiliency. Here's another pilot in partnership with MPA and SMI to develop an end-to-end electric hovercraft as part of Singapore Decarbonization's Blueprint 2050. Keppel is leading a consortium of 7 members, including hovercraft operators, industry, research institute, and 5G potentially will play a role in transforming the technical support and the maintenance of this boat from a physical crew-based approach into a virtual-based support in order to overcome the resource constraint as well as the knowledge gap in adopting such new technology. Now, here's another recently completed pilot of autonomous tug in Singapore water under the MPA MASS program. So with the 5G coming along, we anticipate the performance or the response of these tugs will be further enhanced. Now, this is the last slide. In summary, with all the various use case and more in the pipeline, the future of Singapore maritime is going to be exciting and offering a significant opportunity. And we are happy to collaborate with like-minded partners to co-create higher value capabilities to support the Singapore maritime sectors and beyond. So with that, thank you for your attention.
So thank you very much, Willis and Willie, for all your examples and for sharing with us. We hear you. 5G is here. We hear you. The time is not appropriate for trials, and we want use cases. So that's kind of a throwdown. On the good news side, you're most welcome to come to the Mobile World Congress next year. So I think you've ticked your box and you can book your flight. Okay, so now we'll just move to the next keynote speaker. We have the pleasure of having Dr. Thomas Gersberg, who is the CTO Axiata Enterprise, who will be speaking on smart airports in the 5G era. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. So for your information, Axiata is active in Southeast Asia. We have the operators in Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Cambodia. So I would like to present the way how we see how 5G can improve the operations of the smart airports. And I would like to start with the good news. And the good news is that we saw that the pandemic has really hit very strongly the industry, especially the airlines. But that what we see right now is that the business is recovering, that the numbers are coming back to the pre-COVID numbers, and already like 2022, like for the cargo, worldwide we expect to hit the record numbers. So the good news can be sometimes the bad news, because actually the success brings sometimes also troubles. One of the troubles is that already many airports, they see capacity issues. Those capacity issues not always can be resolved by adding just another terminal, another physical space. So there must be a smart way how to solve the problem. We see also that the passenger experience is not optimal. If you do the travel, actually, the traveling time takes less of your time than non-traveling time for your travel. So like 60% of the time in average, you are idle. Even if you're in the airport, that we see that only 20% of the time is something commercial related. The rest is just, I don't know, sitting and waiting and trying not to miss the plane and so on. So actually, a lot of inefficiency is related to kind of uncertainty. The passengers have that they miss the plane, that the gate will be changed and so on. Again, a big field of improvement and also a big opportunity for monetization. We also see that, the airports in most of the countries, they're just companies, they're private entities. They are expected to maximize the profit. So there is on the one hand side, there is a pressure on the cost efficiency, on the savings, but also the question is how to increase the monetization. And that comes, also with the revenue diversification, because you can't expect, that only the airlines will be paying more and more for being hosted at the airport. And the last thing, which is a big threat, I believe, is that according to the surveys, usually the airports, they are not really prepared to cope with the security challenges on the IT side. So if we look now at the current state, we see that like 55% of the airports right now, these are still kind of very early phase of digitization. It means that they offer some level of self-service, but it's still not like the airport 3.0 that there's already some optimization for the processes. And we see that only 4.3% of the airports worldwide, they claim they are on the 4.0 level. It means that, that the processes are integrated. And here, what I mean by the process by the processes and by the challenge that is related to that. If we look at the airport, actually we see so many stakeholders there. We see so many different needs. We see that, punctually, some of the airports are trying to solve the problems like smart parking at the airport, like maybe asset management, connected body cams for the security, autonomous vehicles on the field, the support for the airlines, like connected aircraft. So these are like the initiatives that are being taken up. But actually, that's what we see is that the airport is an ecosystem. This is an ecosystem that is designed for the passengers, for the airlines, for the commercial concessionaires there. So we have many stakeholders. And as this is an ecosystem, so the ecosystem can flourish only if it's well connected and balanced. If it's disconnected, it will die. And my personal belief and the belief of our company is that actually the 5G is the way how to pump here more blood and how to make sure that the blood in the ecosystem will circulate faster. So it has been told a lot about 5G, but actually we see that we know this 5G triangle. It has been shown so many times, and I believe everyone understands, the abilities that 5G radio is bringing right now to the enterprises or to the consumers. We see how the service can be differentiated. We see also that we can get more security, more bandwidth, and so on. But the question is actually how to use that. And that's what I observe is very often that actually the operators or even the enterprises, they just build 1, 2, 3 base stations and they claim they are now 5G radio operators. The challenge, what I see for the next year is that as the 5G core, which is designed to enable or to expose those capabilities to the solutions and to the clients. This is behind the, I would say, the development of it, it's behind of the expectation of the industry. Very often the macro networks, they are mostly designed to serve the consumers, and there are no actually use cases right now to incentivize the operator to develop 5G core on the macro level. So we see this as a kind of the challenge, how to digitalize smart airports and also other industries. So here, what is the workaround? So the workaround are the dedicated private networks. Those networks can be established and can be delivered right now with the technology that is available. The only thing is actually how to, the question is actually how to build the use cases and how to create the ecosystem. And now I'm talking about the technology ecosystem. The difference between 4G and 5G is that 5G is not another type of connectivity. 5G is the service that combines the connectivity and actually enables also computing. 5G enables end-to-end optimization, and this is the heart for every, I would say, real-time service. So one of the challenges is how to deliver this vertical integration of the network capabilities through the radio, through the core, how to deliver the automation, how to orchestrate the complexity of the services, and of course, how to come with the relevant applications. And the typical use cases for the implementations, what we see is like, first is the data transfer from the aircraft. This will change the way how how the airlines will operate their assets. The Airbus, for 1 hour of flight, one engine of the Airbus is producing 2 terabytes data. So when the aircraft arrives at the airport, it has to be downloaded, even for the maintenance purposes, for the automated discovery of the problems and so on. This is one of the examples that you can't solve without having 5G. So it's not only has to be downloaded fast, but it has to be processed at the airport. So again, another use case for edge computing here. We see also here one of the most important use cases, the passenger journey. And there are very nice examples, how the augmented reality on the phone or on the glasses can guide you actually through the airport. How it can give you the confidence that you don't miss the train, that you don't sit, like half an hour at the gate just to be sure, if your plane will be delayed or will not be delayed, if the gate will be changed, and so on. This is sometimes that could be used for shopping. So this is another use case, how to increase the revenues on the airports. We have the same with the concession experience. The airports can have the information about the customers, movement, behaviors, and so on. This can be linked with the information that the commercial system have. So again, how to create this ecosystem? How to make sure that this ecosystem will use the same, I would say, network, the same data plane, and so on. Another examples are like security and safety, real-time asset monitoring, and so on. So this will come eventually, but the question is, I would say, what are the priorities, or what could be the priorities? That's what we see as the kind of low-hanging fruits. First is the CCTV and video analytics. This is something that is available, that can be deployed. Not many airports right now are really using that. The second thing is the contactless customer journey. And here we see already some examples, how to manage actually, the flow through the gates, how to get rid of this paper or barcode boarding passes if actually, my body is my boarding pass. The same like with the real-time and integrated communication. And the integration communicated the information from the plane through the systems on the airport up to the moment where your baggage is getting delivered. You can get this personalized information if the baggage is properly tracked. And of course, what I mentioned, the massive data upload and download, I believe this will be forced by the airlines. And again, if the airport prepares itself to serve the airlines in the better way, I believe it can increase its own competitiveness. And we see that already some airports are implementing the solutions. Yeah, I have taken 3 examples, like from Heathrow, where you have like autonomous robots and self-driving luggage vehicles. We have in Qatar like self-service kiosks. We have like automated visa document check. And I believe what is very impressive, like in Dubai, that you manage the passenger identity actually you can manage it without scanning the documents. And I believe this will be one of the differentiators for the passengers' experience in the past. Like, let's imagine, maybe we are not the digital native, we're old enough not to be digital native, but still there is a lot of passengers for whom the travel is a stress. If my 75 years old mother, if she wants to visit me in Kuala Lumpur, going through Europe, and if I'm going to buy her a ticket, then I'm thinking, how I can reduce her stress level. She does not speak English, Should I send her through Doha or should I send her through Dubai? You see, this is how the purchasing decisions will be made very soon. And from my perspective, if we help the airports to prepare for that, those airports will get the competitive advantage again. They can monetize the 5G through the solutions. So this is my last slide because I just wanted to have a little bit time for the questions. My conclusion is that, first of all, the 5G networks is a critical enabler. This is the technology that will deliver the security, that will deliver also secure connectivity for the local ecosystem, and that will deliver the technical performance required to run all the real-time services, like AR, AI-based analytics, and so on. So the second thing is that, 5G-based projects and private networks, this is not another 4G private network. You can't do it like, you go to the customer and you say, okay, this is my great solution, and, I will take one of the operator. You can't go to the customer and you say, okay, I have the network, and this network, can run with every solution that you will pick later. Because the 5G networks are the network integrator projects. And I believe, the successful companies in the past will be those who will be able to form strong consortia among the operators and subject matter experts, including system integrators. Actually, at this moment of time, I was supposed to announce the partnership Axiata is taking now with 2 global leaders. However, I can't do that because the legals are still working on the on the wording. But stay tuned, because in a couple of days probably you will see it, in the media. So now we still have 1 minute for questions.
So maybe a quick one, So in terms of so in terms of enterprise or industrial applications, there are actually 2 schools of thoughts. Whether you have a private 5G spectrum or a 5G slicing, right? You slice for that industry. I think that's what M1 did. Was pretty nice. So actually these 2, what is your personal take of this private 5G spectrum versus a slice private 5G?
So I would say slicing is not the spectrum allocation. So you can have private spectrum, but also you can deliver the private network based on some licensed spectrum. I mean, like operator spectrum. This is one thing, yeah? So you can still carve out a part of the macro network to deliver the solution or deliver the private network if you don't have like a dedicated spectrum. This is one thing. The second thing is that actually, and that depends really on the geographies, but that what I believe will be a very big differentiator. These are the millimeter waves. Because the millimeter waves, the networks based on millimeter waves are perfect for many of the use cases, especially for the indoors. Yeah, so actually, I believe that from the spectrum perspective, those networks, the private networks, will be eventually kind of hybrid one. Maybe they will have, a portion of the public spectrum, but a lot of the use cases here, they will be running on different spectrum. They're like on very, very high frequency. But if you have like the private spectrum for enterprises, or let's say you take the operators one, the question is political, actually. It's not a technological one.
I have a question from the practical. Thank you. The question I have is that today the majority of all the 5G frequency is in a 20 megahertz channels. And that's due to a lot of the chip manufacturers not, providing that at this point in time. But when you get into airports, transportations, industry, you have a variety of devices, sensors, which require very little channel bandwidth.
Yes.
And this is sort of a gating issue right now, moving it into industry, is because of the channel size. So what are you seeing in the GSMA environment of addressing these kinds of problems for industry?
I would say, first of all, like if you look at the O-RAN space, the availability of available services is much higher than those services now promised by the very big guys. This is the first difference. Of course, like the big guys are focusing very much of the EMBB to deliver speed and capacity. But that's what we see also, that the other alternative vendors, they're also delivering the ULCC and MMTC. So that's why I believe that, since we get very strong slicing mechanism just to deliver at one place, those capabilities, and this is just coming right now. Like this year, I believe this will be the year where it will be really shown broadly to the public. Then I believe we can solve all type of challenges for the applications for any private network. And we are, the life cycles, like usually we start with a kind of live trials, live POCs, and so on. And at the same time, the core 5G core capabilities are also developed. So I believe that, if you look from the customer perspective, the customer journey can start right now. Because with the software-defined networks, you can start even deliver some of the use cases based on the 4G capabilities. And then when the airport in some given country, if they have the license for the spectrum, if they see the use case, then you can just over the night upgrade it to 5G, right? And also enable 5G use cases. So I see rather this as a kind of journey, as a kind of transformation than revolution. Does it answer your question? we can continue it afterwards. Okay. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Thomas. So now we will change track. Hopefully we'll go a bit slower. I noticed we were going very fast. There's a timer here that's creating a lot of stress for all of us. So just to explain that. So now we'll have a panel discussion. Let me change hat, sit here, not fall off. Okay, I've got a panel. Let me try and introduce my panelists. I've got three gentlemen who will join me on the panel. So first one, in no order of priority, by the way, Mr. Najib Zulkifli, Head Emerging Technology and Innovation, Malaysia Research Accelerator and Technology and Innovation, Merenti, which is a lot shorter. Mr. Lau Tian Chen, Vice President, Head of Innovation Center, Asia Pacific, DHL. And last but not least, Mr. Isanul Islam, Vice President, Engineering and Head of Southeast Asia, Qualcomm. Welcome to all three of you. Thank you very much for joining us today. So I thought to make this fun, what we'll do is every round of questions will just get a little bit harder. Yeah. So we'll start with kind of the general ones, just to warm everybody up, try and level up where we understand what each of you is doing. So we'll start with motherhood, and then we'll get very specific, and then we'll get into your life story. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, I see no objections. Very good. Since you're sitting beside me, you just get the first question.
Sure.
Okay. So really, Merenti, it's new, yet I hear not necessarily new. It's got some lineage. Maybe you could share with us, just a little bit about Merenti so that we understand what this new organization that is set up, what's its purpose, its raison d'etre. But also, can you talk about the technology commercialization accelerator as part of your introduction, if you don't mind? Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Charles. So Meranti would say practically it is a government agency where we are to streamline, add value, the whole value chain against the R&D, in which the research and development, but as well as the commercialization and the innovation value chain as well in Malaysia. Yeah. So in terms of that, basically it's almost every other thing. But with regards to that, is for us to be able to support all the of the necessary commercialization efforts within Malaysia. And from there, I guess figuratively speaking as well, Meranti itself is referring to the Meranti tree. Yeah. In Malaysia, Meranti itself, the yellow Meranti, if I'm not mistaken, coming from the Shorea family genus. The yellow Meranti could span around 100-meter tall, deep roots, overreaching canopies. So figuratively speaking, that is what we are to the industry. So that will be able to support the ecosystem with regards to the R&D, or what we call it to the CNI, R&D and CNI activity, stakeholders and value chain. Yeah.
Okay. Would you going to talk about the accelerator as well?
Well, the technology commercialization accelerator, in a way, it's in a nutshell of what I've already described anyway, for us to be able to accelerate all the technology commercialization efforts in Malaysia. And from there, this is what, I guess to elaborate, is more about serving the needs of the connection between the government, the industry, the academias, the civil societies, in which internally within Meranti, this is what we refer to the quadruple helix community. Yeah. So that is what internally what we have in terms of Meranti. It's essentially a combination of two agencies within Malaysia during the pandemic. Yeah. Two agencies meaning it was a 7-year-old agency by the name of Magic, where it concentrates on many ground building programs for the government, for startups. And from there, we also combine it as well with Technology Park Malaysia, a 26-year-old industry park in Malaysia, the nearest one to the Klang Valley or the city center, where what we thought was, mind you, one less agency for the government to be worried about. And from then, for us to be able to, what will we have with the right programming capabilities of envisioning the programs, of executing the programs, if we marry it and we combine it together with all the necessary assets that Technology Park Malaysia have access to. Yeah? We're talking about 686 acres. I hope I got that right. We're talking about 200 odd tenants. We're talking about startups, SMEs, large corporations, Maxis, Astro, listed companies, a lot of companies there. Yeah. But on our side is for us to be able to continuously and will always be investing and enhancing the park, so that we'll be able to attract more brands to be hosted within the park itself.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. So I see you've got a very ambitious mandate. Good luck to you. And you aspirationally, I see you look at the Meranti tree as a, I guess, your logo of sorts.
There's also a Meranti tree in Singapore as well.
I will go look it up.
I Googled it before.
Okay, brilliant. I'll take your word for that then. Okay, TC. DHL. It's a household name. Everyone knows it. Some of us slightly on the ignorant side think of you as a courier service only, but you are more than that. Maybe if you just very broadly share with us, really what's DHL doing in the area of advanced mobility and transportation?
Maybe first of all, thanks, Charles. Yeah? First of all, let me just give you a bit of background regarding DHL. Most people know us as the courier company, and that's the brand that we have kind of adopted. Essentially, DHL is a result of today's DHL. We are owned by the Deutsche Post. It's a German company, result of mergers and acquisition. So in the group of DHL, in this part of the world, we have the famous DHL Express, the courier company. We call it time definite. So we are the world's number one, way ahead of many of our competitors globally. Yeah? The second DHL we have in every country is global forwarding. We are the world's largest air freight companies in the world, operating air freight, heavyweight, heavy duty, all these aircraft. The second thing is we do under the DHL Global Forwarding is that we are the world's number 2 ocean non-vessel operating cargo. So that's why many people will say, oh wow, I didn't know that you guys are into ocean. Then the third business unit is DHL Supply Chain, where we are the world's largest warehouse operator. So we do warehouse as well as domestic transportation. So in terms of warehouse footprint, we are the largest by far globally. And the fourth addition to the family is the DHL e-commerce, where we do the last mile. So this is the new one, where we compete with the likes of the local provider mainly. So that's DHL in a nutshell. I come from an organization that's called Customer Solutions and Innovation, where we represent all the business units, where we do three things. One is that we will deal with, we will engage the top 100 customers for DHL. Number two, we will come up with sector strategy. And that's very interesting when it comes to application of technology, the sector. And the third part is innovation. And so I run the Asia Pacific sector, the Asia Pacific Innovation Center, which is out of Singapore. So we have 3 other centers, one in Chicago. The first one is actually in Germany. Second one is Singapore. Third is in Chicago. And the fourth one, which is our newest addition, is in Dubai. So that's what we do. So in terms of adoption of 5G, I think so if you go, we can either go by sector. So different sector, for example, life science, there's a lot of exploration. I mean, the fact of the matter is DHL is a very pragmatic, and we are a logistic company, right? So there's the very ground, everything that we do must be very ground. Operation, KPI. If you give us the parcel today, we promise you that for DHL Express, for all the cities in Asia, next day delivery, whether it's AM or PM. So in order to achieve that kind of accuracy, so innovation is very important. Yeah, so that's why we can deliver the vaccine, for example, right? -70 across the world, 72 hours, and not just deliver but bring it back. So in terms of, because of that, right? So we are constantly exploring technology. 5G technology is one of the things that we look at in the area of life science, big area that we are looking at. In the area of, what do you call this, mobility, trucking is definitely a big thing for us in part of our chain, right? So we are looking into, as you probably have heard that we have put in an order in US for 200 trucks, autonomous vehicle. Not electric yet, still diesel, but autonomous. So 5Gs will be down the road as to how we can connect all these vehicles together. Of course, within our warehouse operation, right? For us, supply chain is all about visibility. You guys probably have heard, right? When it comes to supply chain, essentially there are only 3 things. It's not very complicated. One is we need to have the infrastructure. Infrastructure means whether it's trucking, whether you use truck or aeroplane, warehouse. So these are hardware. But the other thing that drives supply chain is information. Yeah, so sometimes we even try to kind of call ourselves, maybe we are not a hardware company, we are not a supply chain company, we are an IT company, because it's driven by information. So when it comes to this information, right, there are 3 things that is most important. There are timeliness, accuracy, and completeness. These three things drives our business way from 20, 30 years ago until now. Maybe I'll add another S, which is security, right? In the world today. So we think that 5G plays a big role here, and later I can give some example of where we can go towards that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, TC. Islam, yeah. I've not forgotten about you. So Qualcomm basically is a wireless technology innovator. Can you share with us very, in a nutshell, really how you see advanced mobility, what type of solutions are out there, and what is your prognosis for the adoption in the region?
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions, and thank you for having me here. Yeah, so the advanced mobility perspectives, the way we see on the automation, the automobile industry, the transformation is happening, incredible transformation is happening. When there is a 3G phone, the feature phone, and that transferred to the smartphones. So the automotive industry, we are seeing in the same way. Right now, it's in the middle of the transformations. We feel automotive is the connected computer on the wheel. So, and from that perspective, actually connected, right now it's getting more connected with 5G. And with Qualcomm, we are a technology enabler, we would say, right? We have many 5G technologies that can really accelerate these transformations. And Qualcomm perspective, actually, we have our digital taxi platform that is now, many of them actually as an infotainment system perspectives, it's already integrated on the car. But moving forward, when this car will be connected to the cloud, then it could be controlled autonomously. To do that, actually, there are a lot of sensors there, the vision-related sensor, LiDAR, all those things, of course, controlled in the car through the processor. But at the same time, the new technology, the 3GPP, introduced the cellular V2X. And this technology really can give you the 360 view for non-line of sight kind of things, right? When this CV2X on the car and C2V2X in the roadside unit and your smartphones and the pedestrians, everybody will be connected without having a cellular network, actually. CV2X can connect point to point. And that will give the complementary on all other sensors. And it is really very, very important for the security, public security perspectives. It can reduce the accidents significantly. And we Qualcomm have these technologies in the package. And CV2X implementation perspective, I would say that 2018, the roadside unit perspectives, it already commercialized in China. And then 2021, the in-car CV2X is already commercialized. Many countries in the world already doing the field trial, including Germany, France, Korea, Japan, many other countries, Australia, US, many other countries doing the field trial. And we are working with the car vendors like Audi, Ford, Nissan, BYD, Geely, to partner with this field trial. And along with the tier one car makers, along with the traffic signal vendors, along with the carrier or mobile operators, and all those things. So overall, Qualcomm have the technologies to make this advanced mobility come into the picture, come into the reality.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Hi? Yep, okay. Can I be heard? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Because I can hear myself, but that doesn't account for very much. Okay, so let's go down and let's be a bit more specific. TC, sorry, I'm going to try and mess up the order just to, unsettle people, if you don't mind. Yes. So we always talk about, in my opening, I talked about the demand side, the supply side, right? So if you can, maybe in more concrete terms, right, kind of talk us through really what are really for DHL, what really is the utility, what is the gains that you hope to see or are already seeing from 5G adoption, and really what is the end state?
So maybe I'll just take one step back, right? Supply chain, as I mentioned just now, you have the physical part, which is the infrastructure. Then there's also the information piece. The challenge of this information piece is, as I alluded to just now, right? I talk about timeliness of information, accuracy of information, and completeness of information. Now, the things that we've seen the supply chain landscape change is now this chain is getting longer because you have, for example, just on Airbus, for example, I mean, we run the control tower for Airbus in Paris. So the number of players, subcontractor and contractor and producer, right, along the chain is amazing. So the chain is getting very long and very complex. Therefore, the information that we try to get from this chain, right, it doesn't come in a timely manner, it's not accurate sometimes, and it may not be complete. So the chain is one part, it's getting very complex. The other thing that drives this whole complexity is us, the consumer behavior. We get to be more personalized, we want the car to be different size, or not different size, different color, cushion, etc., etc. So personalization caused the whole demand to be what we call high mix, low volume. So everything comes in small batches. Now, if you think about that, right, the information that is coming through the chain is not just a lot, but it comes from so many, many parties. So many, many parties. And therefore, for us to make a decision in order to be able to promise the next day delivery, or for your customer, for you guys who are in a manufacturer, to be able to promise that. Therefore, we have this thing we always joke about, just in case. No, it's just in time. So because of just in case, so we will stock up inventory. We will do many, many things, stock up inventory. We will make sure that we have spare truck, etc., etc. So what does 5G means to us? 5G to us is this capability to manage this information in a much, much more efficient way. Not just efficient, because just now I think Willie talked about 6,000 user of IoT device, right? So if you think about this supply chain is millions of, across the chain, it'll be thousands and thousands of points with millions of devices. Just think about the vaccine. There's a lot of information. So our idea is, if and when 5G, and I started by saying just now that DHL is very pragmatic, right? And we are watching this space very, very carefully, very, very closely, at the point whereby we can even group this part of the supply chain into grouping, and we can get a much timely, faster, much accurate or complete data, then we'll go for it. An example, life science, computer vision. Computer vision is a big thing for us. So in the world of life science, for example, if all those, the heart valves, knee replacement, a lot of these items are in the hospital under consignment. Now, how do we manage this consignment product for the customer? And we believe computer vision is one way to go, and we are working on some pilot to use computer vision. But with computer vision, you need to upload the information, right? And you can't, in the hospital, you can't, even if they won't allow you to use the Wi-Fi. So we think 5G could potentially be the way. Fast information, so that we have a view across the country, for example, of all the different parts in the hospital, so that we can replace. We can make sure that the expiration of product is well managed, so you don't get aging product inside the hospital. So that's just one example. And of course, as I go through all the different sectors, it's all about TA, timeliness, accuracy, and completeness, and security.
Thank you very much for that. I haven't forgotten you. I'll keep you to ask the harder question. Islam, so we've heard a lot about smart port, smart airport. So how, share with us, from a Qualcomm perspective, how do you see Qualcomm coming in really to support the use cases?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, right? In 5G, this is a unified network. What does 5G provide that many use cases can provide through one simple unified network? As Lau Tien already mentioned, right, the vision computing, right? You really need the very high-speed data connection so that you can upload those data fast or download those data first, right? So the 5G perspective, actually, we are seeing 5G in a way that it has extreme this mobile broadband use cases, the low latency, extreme low latency, and all other 5G beneficial characteristics. How that can apply, that will really apply in the private network perspectives. If you see the current smart port or smart factory, all those are connected to the Wi-Fi. But the difference between Wi-Fi network and the 5G network is reliability, the latency, the network coverage, and all those things, right? So you cannot get the reliability on the Wi-Fi network. So private network will be very, very important. Some of our speaker already mentioned previous speech that private network on the port automations, the airport automations, and that important, very important. And when you think about the private network, that really give you a very customized use cases in the same locations, your own network. And what that will give you is the local edge data center that you really can all this sensitive data on your own private places. You really does not need to go through some other people, right? So you can really protect your own data security through these private networks. So that's why the private network on 5G, the network slicing or whatever 5G things you talk about, this private network is very, very important. And to realize it, we believe not only the sub-6, the high band 5G, that is, we call it millimeter wave, that we can easily achieve multi-gigabit downloads and uploads. It will have the securities there. That can resolve your DHL problem or many other problem, right? And one of the big use cases is vision, actually, the camera, and it will be the AI. And when it will be AI, there will be a lot of computations. This computation could be on the edge on the device, it could be edge on the cloud, or it could be the center cloud. Whatever this edge cloud and this device, when they will be really connected with the 5G millimeter wave, then you really don't have much delay. And that will give the your private own network to have your specific use cases. Use case perspectives, all those camera related use cases, all these in the smart factory, if you see, this AGB, those can be connected, right? That will give you the reliable things. It could be many more other use cases like the AR glasses can remotely maintain those things. And many more use cases could be thought when you will really have this network and you will use the AI, you will use the machine learning, the things could be changed completely. So that's how we Qualcomm. But to make it happen, actually, we really need a lot of partners. It's not only the technology there, a lot of the people really need to work on it. We need the correct system integrator who can integrate, who can have your personal use cases to realize. From that perspective, we Qualcomm, our role is to enable the technology, enable our partners, and give the use cases to our customers so that they can really increase their productivity at the end.
No, thank you very much, Islam, for that. Najib, I told you I was going to keep you for last. So you're the only regulator in the room.
Almost.
So I think to humanize you, not that you need to be humanized, but to humanize you, could you share with us, some of the challenges, that Meranti has had in your journey, and maybe the industry here may also want to come in and help you, if they feel sympathetic enough. I don't know. I speculate here, but the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles. Well, if I were to, I guess, to point to a single challenge would be for us to be able to group up everyone together so that we'll be able to execute. Yeah. And by doing so, one of the things that we had is in the National Sandbox program, where the lead ministry is MOSTI, which is my ministry, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. So what we had from there, we are the lead secretariat or the lead operator of this sandbox. We've got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 14 or 16 sandbox areas that we have so far with regards to that, comprising of government and also private partners. Yeah, the private partners are MNCs, GLCs, and on top of that, this is also where we work with them. We identify what are the problem statements. We find and scout out who are the solution providers that is able to meet these so-called problem statements, and from then I think we have assisted, supported, helped around 180 companies going into the sandbox. To be specific, on mobility, transportation, even on drones, we supported 30 companies for 4 different sandbox areas or 4 different sandbox environment. So going back to what getting, syndicating, connecting everyone together, where one of the mandate that we had was also for us to be able to create our own tech clusters within the Meranti Park itself. Yeah. So this is where we are creating several living labs within the park. One, we broke ground on the Drone Excellence Center. It's a R&D center. It's a commercialization center. It's everything with regards to drone development. And from then as well, we also have one for agri-tech. We have the one coming up for health tech. And we have another one for autonomous vehicle or even AGVs. Even that, I think even today, I think we had some good news with regards to the city, the mayor of the city of Kuala Lumpur. And this is, again, it goes back to what's the single challenge, right? Whenever we want to attempt, we want to create this bleeding edge setup infrastructures, how do we necessarily pull up all the necessary government entities, policies, processes, so that we'll be able to push it and execute on all these type of developments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I don't want to hog all the time. So can I just check if there are any questions from the audience? Does anyone have a burning question that you would like to ask? Yes, gentleman here, please. Thank you.
I think it's very timely since DHL is there and Qualcomm is there. And to compare whether dedicated private network, how could that help DHL to reduce your reliance on Wi-Fi? So in a way, comparing private network versus Wi-Fi in all your warehouses. I think every warehouse, every floor will have tens of Wi-Fi AP today. Thank you.
So the question.
Now, have you considered using private routers to replace the Wi-Fi in all your warehouses?
All right. Okay. First of all, I think we are focused right now in the really making sure that 5G works for our application. As I mentioned just now, when it comes to application of 5G, we are very pragmatic. We have to make sure that within that warehouse, of course, all the security is taken. That is non-negotiable, covered by our IT. So we're going to go 5G, then the whole Jinbang will come in for the purpose of our warehouse, as well as for purpose of our not just warehouse. We actually we don't operate in just a warehouse. In some places, we operate campus. So in the campus, we have multiple warehouses, value-added services. So then that's why the autonomous vehicle, all these are things that we consider. So it could be a bigger. But the other thing that's very important is also between one location and another location. That's another big one. So as we think about application, right? Because that line of information, it's also many parts is also ours. Beside our partners, our customers. So many of these groups of activities, if I call it, comes from our own our internal operation. And they can be everywhere, right? Because supply chain, cross border.
Yes, maybe if I can add a little bit. From Qualcomm perspective, we don't feel that all Wi-Fi need to be replaced to 5G. It should coexist. Some of the devices may be connected with the Wi-Fi network. Some of them will be connected with 5G. And whatever device connected with the 5G, you can get the benefit for mission criticality, the reliability, latency perspective. That should connect it with the 5G network. And another thing is that the device perspective, right? So whatever device you have, whatever sensor you have, not everything 5G supported yet. That will take some time. But for some time, the 5G network, Wi-Fi network should complement each other from private perspective. That's how we are seeing it. And Wi-Fi is also evolving, right? Now Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 is coming, and all those things. So all these technologies should coexist. We really need to see which one we need to use for what purpose. That's why we can really increase our overall productivity. That's how I feel.
Great, thank you very much. So we've exceeded our time, so I've not quite fulfilled my own KPI. But thank you very much for joining us. This panel was never meant to answer all the questions. It was really intended to kickstart a discussion so that now that you know the personalities, you've had all our speakers, feel free to continue that conversation with them. So on behalf of GSMA, I'd like to, and please join me in thanking my three panelists, Islam, TC, Najib. Thank you very much. And the next session is at 4 o'clock. It's on digital healthcare. So please take your coffee break and come back here in this room for the next session at 4. Hey, thanks a lot, man.